Are you ready to boost your confidence when selling so you're able to close more deals? Nikki Roush will show you how to build a foundation of skills and a mindset that creates sales success without feeling pushy or salesy and without fear of rejection. She is a sales strategist and coach with more than 25 years of sales experience and is master certified in neuro-linguistic programming. This is a radically different approach to selling. It's a no sleaze, no slime, and no stress approach to building your business. This is Sales Maven. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush, your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips, techniques, and strategies to master that sales conversation. Today's episode is a sales success story. I am so excited to share this one with you. This is one of our very own Sales Maven Society members, Maureen Taylor. Maureen, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thank you for saying yes to coming on and sharing what we're going to talk about today. I'm so excited about it. Before we get into the details of the successes that you continue to have, which have been amazing, tell everybody a little bit about you and specifically about your business because it's so unique and special.
So I'm known as the photo detective because I help people reveal the stories behind their family photographs. And I've been doing this for a really long time. And I have to say that I've got some great press. You know, I was on the Today Show and The View and the Wall Street Journal, but success was still, like financial success was still way out there. But I love what I do. And I love hooking up people with their family history and their family photographs and combining the two.
And how do you do that? So somebody has some photos, some old photos. What happens? What's the process of working with you?
I offer consultation services. It's virtual, of course, now.
Yeah.
And I have different packages for different numbers of photos, but we look at their pictures and I look at their pictures specifically and see what I see that a lot of people overlook. The details in the picture, what someone's wearing, how they're wearing it, what the little accessories are, when the photographer was in business, and how all of the details in the photograph and the historical details outside the photograph fit together with their family history and their family story. And sometimes they fit and sometimes they don't.
I feel like that was not to do with a photo, but that was me a couple years ago when my husband and I were like, we do this thing every year where we come up with a theme for the year. And so I think one year it was the year of adventure. So we did something new every month. And so one month I was like, I ordered us the 23andMe, stuff to hear, like to get the test for like, what's our makeup, like where, all that stuff. And there were some really shocking things that came back for both of us, things that we had been told our whole life that were just not true. So I kind of was like, dang, I wonder if I should have not done that because it caused some ruckus in the families on both sides, actually. But
I like to joke that I cause as many family conflicts as I solve with family photo mysteries.
I'm figuring it out. Now, you also are a speaker because I know you speak a lot now virtually, but groups hire you to speak and talk a little bit about that too, so people can understand. Maybe they're going to want to have you come in and speak too.
Sure. So I've actually been doing virtual events since virtual events really got started. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like when everything shut down this year, I was like, hey, I already know how to do this. This is great. I've been doing it for years, although it's a new thing for most people. And I talk about family photographs and family history and how to preserve and organize and share your pictures as well. And I do it for small groups. I do it for large organizations. Mm-hmm. Basically, whoever wants to reach out and have me come and do a virtual event. I do all-day webinars and seminars. I do individual seminars. I do this cool thing called the Photo Detective Roadshow, where say you're a member of a family history organization, Nikki, and there's like 30 members in your group and everybody has photographs they want to know more about. So we do this like show and tell, and they talk about their family photos, and then I sort of talk about the reality of what's in the photograph.
Yeah.
And we have a really good time. It's sort of like Antiques Roadshow, only it's my own little photo detective show.
So fun. I love it. I love what you're doing.
There's so much fun.
Well, let's start. Let's get into the nitty gritty of some of the successes that you've had. I always like to start with the question is like, what was your impression or how did you feel about sales or selling before you and I started working together?
My relationship with sales is conflicted. So when I used to lecture in person, a lot of organizations in my field tell you that you are not allowed to sell from the podium in any way, nothing, no mentions, nothing. And that really, has sort of been the model for years. But now, well, not now, but the last few years with the complete transition to virtual model, suddenly I can sell because I'm offering my own events. But I found myself without any structure for it. I didn't know how to do it. And it all felt uncomfortable. It didn't feel good. I didn't really know what I was doing. And my assistant, Carmen Schleffler, kept saying, you can do this. But it was really only when I hooked up with you through the Sales Maven Society and with Carol Cox through Speaking Your Brand that I developed a little more confidence. Carmen was always there sort of pushing me saying, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. But I didn't know how specifically to do it. But listening to all three of you ladies really changed everything for me, like complete change. And now I feel more confident. I'm not going to say I don't still get a little flutter in the pit of my stomach, Nikki, when I put out all these emails, but it does appear to be working. And so I'm feeling more comfortable with it as we go along.
I'm so glad because we originally connected through Carol Cox. Is that right? I feel like that's how I first met you was through Carol. Carol had hired me. You were in a program with her and she had hired me to come in and talk to her group. You were one of the members of the group. And just like what you do now, you go in and you speak to your group and you make an offer. And that's what I did is I went into Carol's group. I made an offer. You took me up on the offer and we've been working together. How long has it been? I feel like it was over a year ago.
Year and a half, I think.
A year and a half. Yeah.
Well, at least a year actively.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and if, as a listener, if you have not heard of Carol Cox before, she has Speaking Your Brand. She has an amazing podcast. I do recommend you listen to Carol. It's one of my favorite podcasts. I've been honored to be on her podcast twice. And the first time she ever asked me to be on her podcast, she told me she was reading my newsletter and I was already a listener. And I was like, what? You read my newsletter? I was so flattered. I love Carol and I'm so happy that she brought us together.
Yeah, I mean, she helped me put together a TED Talk for a conference, a signature talk, and then just recently she did a webinar to launch program, which was great. Which it all fits in quite nicely with what you're talking about in the Sales Maven Society, Nikki.
Yeah, yeah, we have. I feel like Carol has been a client, and like I said, I've been on her podcast, but I was a listener prior to ever even know that, like I didn't know that she knew who I was. And I just am so in awe of her. And she has made such a huge impact in the world of helping people really understand what is their signature talk. It's really because of listening to Carol that even helped me come up with my signature framework, which is the selling staircase. Like that comes from the work that Carol talks about. And I've actually hired her to come in and speak to the Sales Maven Society about frameworks and having your signature framework and the importance of it. So love that. All right. So let's get into, since we started working together a year and a half ago, and really, I feel like it's been in the last few months that we started doing strategy sessions in addition to the work inside the Sales Maven Society. And I know also you've participated in quite a few of my master classes. But what would you say are some of the biggest things that you've implemented? And then what have been the results?
Let me talk about the results first, Nikki.
Okay.
So it's great to have a signature talk and a TED talk and all the other things that I did. And that's all after I put together most of that after the event I'm going to talk about. A year ago, I held a webinar and I had 25 people sign up. And I thought, woo, woo, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, maybe I could do a little better. So we had a talk and you said, Maureen,
A strategy session.
A strategy session.
Yeah.
And you said, here's the thing. You need to put together at least 10 different emails. You have your sort of promo emails, and then you have your event emails, and then you have your sales emails. And I took notes and I freaked out I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was so nervous, Nikki. Like, how could this possibly be? How could I, write 10 emails? I barely know how to sell. And yet taking your classes, having the strategy sessions and all of that. And then the class that we came up with through the Carol Cox webinar to launch class was something called Tackle Your Photographs, 3 techniques basically that go from overwhelmed to organized, something like that.
And this was a free training.
A free training. Yeah. And I decided that, and this is pre-COVID, I think, pre-COVID. Yeah. And I decided that I was going to put my all into it, and I was going to listen to you, and I was actually just going to follow everything that you said. I was just going to do it. I was going to put together all of those emails.
So we're talking about email sequences.
Email sequences.
I think actually you and I had this strategy session. I knew you had a webinar coming up, and I felt like there were some sequences that you were missing in your emails. And it was prior to me even teaching. I think you had already signed up for the email sequence masterclass, but I hadn't actually taught it yet. And I was like, no, I'm just going to give you this stuff. Like, I want you to do this. And yeah, I, in the kindest, like most supportive way, I want to laugh because you looked like I had like put you through the ringer by the end of our strategy session. You were so like 10 emails, Nikki. Like, are you joking? Are you kidding me? So anyway, keep going.
Right. So we broke it down into sort of, promotional to get people to sign up. And then what happens after they attend, how you make the pitch, how many emails go out, when they go out. It's all about timing and strategy and all of that. So I just want to remind everyone that I just mentioned that I had that webinar last fall and I had 25 people sign up. Yep. I ended up with 800 people for the Tackle Your Photos webinar.
That's 800 people sign up. And I think actually you were getting some great signups. And I was like, I know you can get more. Mm-hmm. I know you can get more if we put some emails ahead of time and really promote this. Let's get more people signed up because you're putting on this event. You have the capability of having that many people. Let's see what could happen. Right?
Well, I remember your face, Nikki, when you said, how many people are on your mailing list? And I told you, and you sort of looked at me and you said, and what are you offering them? And I thought, I don't offer them anything. They're just on my list. They get a newsletter once a week. And you were, well, these people are on your list because they want to hear from you. They're hungry for content. Why don't you make some content?
Let's sell them something because you do have a huge list. I mean, it's ginormous compared. Do you feel comfortable sharing what your number is? It's totally up to you. You don't have to if you don't want to.
It's more than 15,000.
Yeah, it's a huge list. So, and you hadn't really ever made an offer to the list,
right? I do book sales. But then a lot of people would drop off the list. Yeah. And so I got nervous, like I'm going to lose my whole list. It's taking me so long to build up the list. I can't do this. And then I thought, well, it was a bit like, jumping out into space and not knowing where you're going to land with all of these emails that you had me create or sort of, advised me to create. And yet since I did that one, I have offered 3 other free webinars with offers on different topics. Some of them partner with other people. And while I have not approached the 800 registration number, I have each time I just did one last week and we had 366 people show up. So now I know what works, when my people are listening, what I need to do to get them engaged and that if this many people sign up, I'm going to get 60% live.
Yes.
And the conversion rate is somewhere between 10 and 14% of the people that are live.
So back to the first one, the 800 people that came, one of the things that you and I worked on is what's the offer? How do you pre-frame it? How do you lay it out? How do you make it really easy for them to take that next step? And you got a huge number of buyers, number of buyers. So again, somebody who was kind of making offers every once in a while with some book sales here or there, now we put one offer out to a list of people who are absolutely interested in you because they showed up for something. And, if you think 10 to 14%, I can't remember what the actual percent was on that particular.
I think it was 14.
14. That's a lot of buyers, right? And it was a pretty significant influx of cash into your business. And then I think, I don't know if you remember, like, what did I say afterwards? Do you remember? Like, you told me the numbers and I was like, do another one.
Yeah. You were like, do it monthly.
Like,
and I'm not going to do it monthly. I have sort of another model for that, for groups that don't have the budget to pay me to speak, or enough of a budget to pay me to speak. I offer this as a webinar and we're going to see how it works.
Yeah. And we've been reworking that structure too, right? So the thing about it, so when we're talking about 10 emails, we're not talking about like 10 emails that were all invitation or 10 emails that were all sales. There's a lot that goes into what those 10 emails were. There's like getting people registered, some of those emails. What do you say in the message? How do you engage the people who did register and make sure they show up on the call? Like everything you can do to make it easy for them to be on that live webinar. And then after the live webinar, and I think when we got off that strategy session, you were like, I have a lot of writing to do. But what you found, I think, once you started doing it is that it wasn't as much writing as you thought it would, because some of it is just repeating the same information, but just laying it out just slightly different, or like there were a few little tweaks here and there. So, and then I feel like now you're really like, you're a believer when it comes to email sequences and making sure that you're making it easy for people.
Absolutely. I can't deny that I wasn't completely overwhelmed by the thought of those 10 emails, but once I dug into them, and they're not very long emails, and now I do them all the time for each of these new classes. Yeah. And, some of my classes aren't as popular as the 800 one, which I'll definitely offer again soon. But it didn't do what I thought it would do. It didn't take people off my list.
Yeah.
They stay on the list. I'm giving them content for free that they want. They can purchase the offer. I make it easy for them to watch. I make it them easy to take advantage of the offer. I make a really nice offer.
Yeah, it was aggressive offer.
And it's important to remember that one thing that you said, which is one offer, not multiple offers.
Yeah.
One offer, make it clear over and over.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people's fear oftentimes is like, people will tell me all the time, oh, well, I have this many people on my list. And I'm like, okay, so how often are you touching your list? Well, I don't want to email them because then they'll take themselves off my list. I'm like, well, then they're technically not on your list, because if people aren't hearing from you and they don't know that they're on your list, and then all of a sudden you just send out a random offer, a year later, they're like, why did you add me to your list? Because they forget that they were on your list. So you need to stay in front of your list often, and you need to be consistent. There needs to be an easy way for people to buy from you. And I actually don't know who said this quote, but I love it. And so I say it all the time now. I've been saying a version of it, but whoever said this. So if you know who said this quote, I apologize. I'm not giving the person credit for it because I just don't know who said it. But I say it all the time now, is love me or hate me, but there's no money in the middle. And so you have to email your list and get the people who are not into you off the list. So you're not paying for them. And you're also not beating your head against the wall. Like, why are all these people unsubscribing? I always bless and release when somebody unsubscribes. I don't get offended by it. I just think, good. Now I don't have to pay money for you to sit on my list if you were never going to buy from me. And then the people who show up from my list, who I make an offer out to, and then they buy, I'm always like, thank goodness I made this offer, because now I get to work with this amazing, cool person, right? Like you, I get to work with you because I put an offer out. So don't be afraid to put offers out. And yes, there is some strategy behind it and language. I know that you know this, you and I work on language and how do you say it in a way that lands really softly and makes it really easy for everybody. But gosh, just the fact that I kind of wish I had had pictures of your face by the end of our strategy session, because you were just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this, Nikki, but I don't love it, but I'm going to try it. Right. Like, I feel like you really took a leap of faith with me on this.
Well, here's the other thing that happens, which is a surprise, is that people do forget they're on your list, or they forgot that they bought one of my courses. So suddenly I'm emailing them and offering them something, and offering them the webinar, offering them the masterclass, offering them the offer, the whatever the package is. And then people start emailing me. So as soon as I start emailing people to say, here's this new class that's free and you want to sign up, and here's why you want to sign up, and you help me with all that language, they say, well, I took your other class. And one, they say, well, I can't figure out how to access the class. So you get a lot of questions about that. Yeah. But also other offers come in. So then people reach out and say, well, I really love this idea. Do you think you could do this for our group? Or can you write an article for our magazine? Or can you do it? So other things come through when you reach out to your list, which I hadn't anticipated. You're right. I was like keeping all the list really close to me. I promised no one I would share the list, and I don't. I do not share my list. Mm-hmm. But I have to talk to them. They're my customers.
Yeah.
There are people who signed up for my list for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that.
Yeah. It should feel conversational, right? Like the people should feel like when they get a message from you, it's from you to them. It's a conversation. There has to be some engagement. There has to be opportunities for people to take next steps. And I feel like you're on fire this last year. So many great things have happened for you. And so many people have benefited from your work because now they understand and have opportunities to buy from you. Whereas before, it's not like the opportunity wasn't there. It just wasn't presented to them in a really easy way. And so they weren't taking you up on it.
And moving to this virtual model, which I had planned to do anyway before this whole COVID shutdown, enables me to teach what I want to teach. Mm-hmm. So I'm in control of what I'm teaching. I know what people ask me when I'm at conferences. And so I can offer smaller, as you call it, chunking down the content and focusing on particular questions that people have and offering them the content that they need to then go home and work on or just pull out the box of photos and work on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people write me nice little notes, Nikki, which is really, it's just a feel good moment when you get a note from someone that says, loved your class.
Yeah. You helped me learn something about my family. Like, yeah, I mean, these are life-changing things that you're making an impact in the world for people. There's, I don't know, I think for many of us, there's something really powerful in understanding our history or learning something interesting about, something from our, heritage. And so what you're doing is making a huge impact. I love it. I love what you're doing. All right. So here's one last question. And then we're going to wrap this up. But if you were able to offer advice to someone who is struggling with their own sales process, what would you say to them? What would be your piece of advice?
I would say, make sure you listen to the experts like Nikki, and that you use authentic language, and that you take a chance, that the people that follow you for a reason. And I think it's worth sometimes jumping and seeing where you're going to land. Take a chance, take a risk.
Yeah. I love that. I would say sometimes you just got to put it out there, even if nobody buys it, then okay, well, my list isn't interested in this offer, but just like you said, taking a chance. I think the way you said it was way beautiful and better than what I would have said. So thank you for sharing that. I hope that this message resonates with somebody who's listening right now, who's thinking like, I haven't put an offer out to my list ever, or in the last 6 months, or in the last 2 years, and that you take a chance and put something out there and see who wants to take the next step with you, and just be willing to put it out there and see what happens. And you don't have to have 800 signups like Maureen did, which was awesome, by the way.
Awesome.
I aspire to have 800 signups on something that I put out into the market. But you don't need to even have a huge list either. Sometimes it's just 1 or 2 sales that make the difference, that you put it out there, you make an impact in these people's lives, and now you start to get some momentum going. And then the next sale comes, and the next sale. And like Maureen also said, is that sometimes you put out offers and other offers come your way because you're putting yourself out there, and people know, like, hey, I'm open for business. Like, let's make sure people know you're open for business.
If you do it in a way that's, I think you call it authentic, with heart and good meaning, people respond to that.
Yeah.
And if you make a mistake, I sent out a newsletter this week that had a mistake in it, and I sent one back out with the corrected link, and I'm like, oops, please forgive me. People will forgive you.
Yeah.
And if they don't, well, lesson release.
Yeah. Yeah. I think most people will give you grace, and the people who don't give you grace, decide whether or not that's worth your time and energy. You can always unsubscribe people from your list. That's like my little secret. When I'm having a bad day, somebody sends me something snarky, they get unsubscribed from my list. That's okay. But I also get a lot of really, really sweet, kind messages that totally rock my world and make my day. And I am just so grateful every day that people would I'm going to take time to respond to something that Nikki put out into the world, right? Like, nothing feels better than somebody who is willing to take some time out of their day to share something nice for you.
Nothing feels better than that personal message that you receive from someone. And Nikki, I want to thank you. Seriously. What you have taught me and what you continue to teach me has ramifications, not just in business. So
thank you. You're so fun to work with. I love our sessions. I love having you in the Sales Maven Society. It's just been so fun to get to know you and learn more about your business this last year and a half. But really, I feel like in the last, I think we started maybe February timeframe of doing some strategy sessions together. And it's just been so much fun. And just to watch you soar. And you continue to soar. I think every strategy session that we work on something new for you, and it's like, oh, you're also a really great implementer. So thank you for that. I love, love, love working with people who will go and implement, even if they feel uncomfortable, even if there's that flutter in the stomach, who are like, I'm just gonna test this. I'm gonna jump and see what happens.
Well, I have one more statement for you, Nikki, that you don't know about yet.
Tell me.
So the last strategy session we were talking about the workshop that I did last week. And you said, when you send out the offer and someone purchases something, do you send them a thank you offer for a related product? And I said, no. I'd never even thought about it.
So this is an upsell.
This is an upsell.
Okay, they buy something. Let's sell them something else.
And I just want to thank you for that. Sales were good.
You're getting some upsells?
I got some upsell.
Yay! Congratulations. That's awesome. I know. I'm always like, okay, let's challenge you on this thing. Let's challenge you on the next thing. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's make an offer. Now let's make another offer, right? And let's see what
baby steps.
Baby steps. That's okay.
Baby steps. I need baby steps.
Hey, you know what? It's all about progression. It's all about the compound effect, right? Like, all these things add up. And at the end of the year, you're going to look back at your numbers and be like, dang, look what happened this year, because I was willing to take some chances, because I was willing to put myself out there, because I made it super easy for people to buy from me. And if they declined the offer, I didn't need to take it personal. It's just move on.
It's not personal.
No, it isn't.
Some people will purchase and some people won't, but they might purchase the next time around.
Yeah.
What's that? It's that when you have to touch it so many times before you actually.
Well, I teach it as there's a convincer strategy. There's a certain number of times people have to say no before they'll say yes. So we have to touch a certain number of times and put offers in front of people a certain number of times before they're like, you know what? I'm in. Like, I just had somebody join the Sales Maven Society. She's like, I've been getting your stuff for a long time. I've been listening to your podcast and I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to make change. Great. Here I am. I'm right here for you when you're ready. So I love it. All right. Tell people how they can get a hold of you, because I suspect there's people out there going like, I have some family photos. I'm interested in the photo detective. How can people get a hold of you? And we will have all of Maureen's contact information in the show notes, but for the sake of the listener right now, who's ready to jump in with you.
Okay. So I know what everyone's been doing during COVID shutdown. They're all working on their family photos. And the way to reach me is my website, MaureenTaylor.com. On social media, I'm Photo Detective everywhere. Name a platform, I'm probably on it as the Photo Detective. And I have a podcast called The Photo Detective, which is on iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, and Stitcher.
Which is just about, you're going to celebrate, or probably by the time this airs, you'll have celebrated 100 episodes.
100 episodes.
It's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know now from doing a podcast how much work goes into a podcast. So getting to 100 episodes, I'm sitting here like just in awe, like, oh, wow, I can't even imagine, but I'm just so excited for you. 100 episodes. Yeah. So check out, what's the name of the podcast again?
The Photo Detective.
Yeah, of course it is. The Photo Detective. You can find Maureen and check her out in the show notes and reach out to her if you need some assistance, or if you know she'd be a great speaker for your group, people who are interested in learning more about their family photos. All right, Maureen, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you so much. As we close the show, I do want to make a special offer for you as the listener. If you are ready to ignite your sales and you know that having some guidance is going to help you get to the next step, then you are invited is what I'm trying to say, to join the Sales Maven Society. This is where you and I will connect. You bring your questions, you bring your concerns, you bring the issues, any of the struggles that you're having and or situations that you have with current clients. And I will provide answers, support, guidance to boost your confidence in all of your sales situations. So join the Sales Maven Society by going to salesmavensociety.com. So of course that's www.salesmavensociety.com. And here's a coupon code. Try for the first month for $27. The new price of the Sales Maven Society is $107 a month. You can come in for your first month for only $27 when you enter the coupon code 27trial, all one word, 27trial, TRIAL, at the bottom. You have to hit apply coupon, by the way, otherwise it'll charge you the full price. But hit the apply coupon, come in, check out the training. Maureen's in there. You'll see her in the group. It's an amazing group of people. There is a lot of content there, and you will get access to me for your sales questions. Love to have you in the group. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.